Greetings, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever timeline or alternate reality you happen to be inhabiting. Welcome to Transdimensional Realities. I'm your host, Milyssa Lee, and here we delve into the stranger aspects of our perceived existence here on the Paranormal UK radio network. We were off the last couple of weeks. I apologize for that, but we're back and we have a brand new guest tonight. Now, tonight we're talking with Andi Saucerman. Now, Andi has a master's degree in adult learning and spent 15 years with the Hoffman Institute working as a teacher and trainer. She's also the founder of Universoul Foundations, where she helps guide people through deep personal and spiritual transformation. Now, Andi is the editor and publisher of Remember Who You Are, a Spiritual Adventure, a book written by Karen Alexander that explores her experiences with a mysterious entity named Daniel. So please welcome Andi Saucerman to the program. So hi, Andi. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Milyssa. Thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you for coming. Really excited to talk to you about this book that you helped to edit and your own experiences. I did say a little bit of the bio in the beginning, but if you could start off just telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into Daniel.
Happy to. Gosh, I've been involved with the Daniel material for 30 years and actually published our very first book 30 years ago, which is actually the book that we're going to be talking about today, Remember Who You Are, but we had it under a different title.
Okay.
And it won the Body, Mind, Spirit Magazine Award of Excellence. And so these teachings that we're going to be talking about have just been a part of my being. I was invited to a group to actually listen to Daniel speak, and it really transformed my life. I felt such a resonance and connection to the teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And so in addition to those teachings be a part of my life, I did spend 15 years as a Hoffman teacher and coach for the Hoffman Institute, and also oversaw their curriculum. And that was really a rewarding experience. It was just another form of supporting people in spiritual transformation or life transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And I also hold a master's in adult learning, basically. And so with all this combination, a few years ago, I made a decision to leave Hoffman so that I could pursue really getting these teachings out into the world. It seems really needed right now. And so Karen and I made some edits and changes to the book, and we republished it as Remember Who You Are.
Fantastic. Now, here's the big question. Who's Daniel?
That's a really good question. And it's always interesting because whenever we would ask Daniel, who are you? He would always say, it's more important for you to understand who you are. But basically, Daniel, just to give a little bit of background, Daniel came to Karen in a meditation. And Karen has more of an academic background. She was not interested in New Age phenomenon at the time or anything like that. So she was very discerning, let's put it that way. But when Daniel came to her, one of the things that she noticed is that this energy, this being, there was so much compassion and patience and love. And so with a friend, she decided to provide for Daniel. She calls it creating that energetic space, what we would call channeling now. And she started providing, and Daniel started teaching. And I was invited to that gathering. So Daniel, he is a spirit from beyond the beyond. Daniel's not really his name. It's a name that Karen gave him. Often when he's teaching, he actually uses we instead of, just me or whatever. And he describes himself as a mirror with a voice, that he is here to help us remember who we are. He said he's a messenger from the infinite.
Hmm.
Um, I know probably what we would describe as more of a higher dimensional being. And he said his purpose is to really help us reconnect with our highest self and our soul, to help us remember who we are. But also, he said, there are many people who are awakening on a spiritual path, but there's so many distortions in a lot of the teachings that are out there.
Hmm.
And so he's also um, clearing up the distortions and has provided in many ways like a metaphysical cosmology, like really answers those questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my life purpose? So
Well, so my question would be, how did Daniel first present himself to Karen? And so I want to understand it. It's not a physical person or a boy, but did it come through like channeling a time during meditation? How did she first become aware of him?
it was through her meditation that he started speaking to her. And again, as I mentioned, she was really cautious about that. And so that's first how he came to her.
Hmm.
And then he asked her in the meditation if she would be willing to provide that space so that he could come through her, channeling in effect, and provide this teaching. So that's how he came to her, was that way. And then, of course, those of us who attended the gatherings, it was just listening to Daniel come through her and teach.
It's interesting that when something like that happens to somebody, and you're meditating, you're not really into all the new age paranormal or anything, and it comes through. What do you do with that? And I guess what I'm asking is, how does it get started in order to form gatherings and meet people and start teaching? You got to start from somewhere.
Yeah, you do. And that's where she actually shared it with a friend of hers. And like, and she's actually a licensed therapist, and so is her friend. And so, I mean, there was some real check-ins about what is this energy? What is this being? What's the intention? So she did her own due diligence at the beginning. And then again, just with the two of them, first getting this information, um, the love, the transmission. Daniel also has a beautiful sense of humor.
Hmm.
They felt like, okay, we're just going to invite a few friends. And so friends would come and they would ask questions. And and then I was invited by some of the friends who had just started at the beginning. And I know for myself and for most of the people, the transmission that you would receive was just like it moved you into your heart. And
Hmm.
again, it just felt so compassionate and presenting information that I hadn't heard before. And I had been on my own spiritual journey since I was young. I was very active as a teenager, like trying to answer those big questions in life. And so when I heard Daniel, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing things I hadn't heard before. But and this is what many people say once they've read the book or read some of the other teachings is they're like I knew this. Like some part of me actually knows what he's been saying. I just didn't have the words for it. But yeah, so it started very small groups and then grew. And we were really lucky to have so much time to actually learn from him as a teacher. So.
So how would Daniel describe himself, which I guess, if it's the way he's coming through him is just a label we'll put on him, where he comes from or where he resides. Because I mean, he is an example. I've seen Bashar, Daryl Anka and Bashar
Mhm.
teach. So Daryl channels Bashar, who's in an alternate reality, 300 years in the future on another planet,
Mhm.
and quasi physical. That's where
Mhm.
he claims to come from. So, but I know there are all sorts of different types of channels. So, where does Daniel fit into this?
Well, Daniel, I would say he has said is from beyond the beyond. I would say a higher dimensional being has not had a physical body
Hmm.
on the earth or any other planets. And because of the information that he has shared about the bigger picture of who we are and why we're here, it makes sense, this understanding of higher dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
So again, he never came right out and said, "This is who I am," because he always wanted to point the picture or the back to us and go, "I'm here to help you remember who you are." But in my mind, he's just higher dimensional. So I hope that that gives more perspective. Where I know other beings who have been channeled, some have had lifetimes on the earth, but Daniel has not.
So over the course of the last, you're saying 30 years,
Hmm.
that he's been coming through and talking, he reaches people on a personal level and shows people how to awaken. What has changed in 30 years? How have things progressed coming from Daniel, especially coming into this current time frame?
Well, Daniel, Karen stopped channeling Daniel at one point, and it's just because we had families. And so, um, what oh gosh, how could I say what's changed? Because the beauty is in the years that we did learn directly from Daniel. Um, there was always the same consistent message about remember who you are, the core of who we are, the
Mm-hmm.
spirits that make up our being, our soul, the aspect that we're the venturing aspect of the soul, why we actually have lifetimes, his message about life and death and the in between. Um, he had mentioned early in his teachings that there would be a time of a collision of dimensions, which is what we're experiencing now.
Mm-hmm.
And so even that message has been consistent. And the last of the teachings that I have from Daniel, which are from the late I think 2009 was one of the last. He was talking about the great reawakening of humanity. But even so, it always was that same consistent message. So I think there wasn't so much of the change as much as the consistency and that reminder of the importance of us remembering who we are. Because when we do our own spiritual work and we do the process of our own personal awakening, we not only impact our life, we impact the life of others around us, but also importantly, we impact the life of this planet Gaia that we live on.
So Karen has not channeled Daniel since 2009, you said?
Yeah, I have to look at my notes, but I think that was the last time. And but the body of work that we have,
Mm-hmm.
um, Daniel taught on so many different topics. By the time I get all the books published on the separate topics, we'll have about 16 books.
Wow.
So
A lot of
anything
material.
from, yeah, I mean, anything from, the hidden mysteries of the Bible to the sacred school of earth to life, death, and the in-between to understanding the animal tribe on our planet. And there's so much amazing content that and teachings that I've been working with.
Well, goody. It gives us more that we can delve into. So let's go to the obvious question. You mentioned it earlier. According to Daniel, why are we here?
Well, I have to kind of back up and give a little history.
Sure.
So, Daniel has described that humanity, um, millions and millions of years ago, that there was this separation from the unity. And so we spun away and from that wholeness. And in that spinning away, we ended up acquiring density and forgetting our connection to what Daniel said we came from upper heaven. And so, as our sisters and brothers were trying to call us back to return home, they made a decision on, well, what is it that we can do to help them so that they can, again, remember who they are and return back to the unity. And so, Gaia, our sister from upper heaven, and her lover, she came and created this beautiful planet. as a way for us to transform our energy so that we could return home. So and that's very simple language because we're in many ways still connected to upper heaven, but there's a part of us that hasn't, and that's the part of us that's working on returning to upper heaven. So we are, as a human being, we are actually the venturing aspect of our soul. And so our lifetimes are meant to be in service to our soul, to say, okay, what is it? What's the learning that I need to acquire in my remembrance of who I am so I can return back to the unity? So in the in-between time, between lifetimes, the venturing aspect, us and our soul, make some determinations on, okay, what's the learning that is needed? What type of body, what type of culture, what attributes, what would be most in service of that lifetime?
Mm-hmm.
And we're also part of what's, because our soul takes out of its own essence, its own heart to create us. Part of what's spun into us is our purpose. And one of the things Daniel talks about in Remember Who You Are soul communities of purpose, not place, that we all belong to. So that's also part of what's brought in. So then we come into the lifetime, and unfortunately, we forget very often that we have this important purpose to be in service to our soul. And part of it is the that we've acquired what's called a social mind, which is not of spirit, it's an implant. Um, but who we are basically is soul. We're this incredible, beautiful soul. And this body is just a vehicle for the particular lifetime to acquire the learnings. But we are this incredible, vast field of energy. And even though we are like we have our own energetic signature, so to speak, we all belong to this beautiful divine matrix of love. We're all part of the unity, this wholeness. But our role is, okay, why am I here in this particular lifetime? What's my purpose? What is my learning? And and part of that is to remove the density from our hearts, to dismantle the social mind so that we can actually listen to, because our soul is constantly singing to us. Our soul is talking to us all the time. It's just with this veil of the social mind, this density in our hearts, that we can't hear it. And so it really requires action on our part in order to hear that voice and to receive that love. So I know that's a lot for that one small question, but
Well, it's well, I mean, I've always heard the concept that we are spiritual beings having a human existence,
Mhm.
and we come in temporarily into these meat suits, and
Yeah.
um, now with that, you're basically explaining the cycle of reincarnation,
Hmm.
coming back, living certain lifetimes, planning your lifetimes.
Yeah.
So, a couple of questions regarding that. Now, in everything that I have learned, I've been on a spiritual journey myself for most of my life. Um, that supposedly our spirits plan out this lifetime so that we were to have certain experiences along the way in order to learn lessons. And if that's the case, I want to have a word with my higher self, because some of the things that chose for me to experience, okay, it's got a twisted sense of humor.
Yeah. The way Daniel described it, because he did this huge teaching on the life, death, and the in between, and he said that when we're planning this lifetime, it's like a pencil sketch. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and because we have free will,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not necessarily like, oh, this is how your life is supposed to be, and so on, because it's not only our free will, but for example, we've made soul contracts with other people, and maybe out of their free will they've chosen not to do that, or something else has come up, and so that's how, again, with each lifetime, even though there's that sketch, it can vary depending on what happens for a number of reasons. But yeah, I know, yeah, I think the way to really reconnect back with that is like you're talking about is have those conversations with your highest self. Like, okay,
Mhm.
what was the learning in that? And I think that's ultimately, I know when I look at the challenges that I've had in my lifetime, it's like, okay, what was the ultimate learning here? And again, it takes some time to separate when something, say, a traumatic has happened.
Mhm.
But then later I can come back and go, okay, what was the silver lining or what was the learning that I needed? And is this part of what my life's path was supposed to be?
And I would assume that there are, in the planning process, it's not just completely linear, that it
Correct.
takes into account that, if A is supposed to go to B, but B doesn't happen, that there's a C and there's backup plans and different routes to be taken throughout the
Mhm.
lifetime.
Yeah. 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 And like I said, there's so much involved when you think about other people's soul contracts that we have. There can be an intent that this is what we want to have happen, but things can change.
Mhm.
And again, I think the more that we can keep connecting um, with our higher self, once we have an awareness, because a lot of people don't even have an awareness that there's a purpose behind my lifetime. But once we start having that, then we can start doing that deepening of connection.
Mhm.
And because life isn't linear, it isn't. It's this spiral that we're on of this growth. So,
I've always heard, and I know in physics, when they start talking about string theory, similar theories, the fact that there is no time,
right.
that all time is
Yep.
happening at once,
Yeah.
which is a concept our human brains can't conceive of,
Correct.
because past, present, and future are all happening
Mhm.
now,
Yep.
which is, again, I get a headache thinking about it sometimes.
I one of the teachings from Daniel is about changing your life and about changing the past. And and I really think, I mean, my this is me personally, but based on, the work I've done and what I know from Daniel is that when we start making these shifts in our life and we keep opening our heart more and allowing spirit to move more and more through us, um, we impact like this that trajectory that changes where we move in the future. It
Mhm.
also changes the past as well. Um, but yeah, he said the other thing too is don't even concern yourself like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have made that decision. He goes, because another part of you has. So they're all, so not only, is the past, present, and future at the same time, but all these parallel selves and all this, there's so much more going on.
Every time you make a decision, whether it's left or right,
Hmm.
you've actually done both
Yeah.
and split off into a different reality and timeline, which means
Hmm.
every decision you've ever made has
Yeah.
split up into an infinite number of lifetimes just for this lifetime. This isn't counting
Yeah.
the others that you've lived before.
Exactly. And that's why our presence and being in the present moment matters so much.
When it comes to reality and views on reality, and that's kind of why I named the show what I did,
Hmm.
Transdimensional Realities, because of some of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is reality? Some people say it's a simulation, like the
Mm.
Matrix. We're caught in the Matrix. It's not real. Others, as I mentioned earlier, Bashar says that, we're dreaming this. It's like waking up from a dream. I
Hmm.
mean, was Daniel's take on this physical reality the way we experience it?
One of the ways Daniel described it is reality. We all have different realities depending on our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I have a heart that is filled with density, then I I'm going to have a whole different experience on the planet versus someone who has a heart with less density.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the ways that he would talk about the reality that we're currently experiencing. But I think there are so many different, again, and Daniel said that different realities. And I think that part of what we're doing is the more that we do this, our own inner work, the more we lessen the density in our heart, the more we start having access to the different realities, because we tend to think our reality is what we think and feel and sense. And the more that we tune in to the subtle energies, the more we start accessing other realities beyond that. And that's what I mean, I've personally found, and I've heard other people experience as well, is that there's so much more to this world that we're experiencing than just the physical senses.
Yes, that's part of my background too. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been a paranormal investigator for years. I've had a lot of my own experiences. And plus, there's also, everything that happens outside of our perception of reality with
Mhm.
dealing, not only connecting with your higher self. There's people who astral travel or have out of body
Mhm.
experiences or experience paranormal phenomena in some
Yeah.
type. I've heard my name being called many times in my life,
Hmm.
when no one's there. And
Yeah.
yeah, let me ask you, did he talk about the idea of guides for people? That, it's you're supposedly we have guides there with trying to
Hmm.
help us and nudge us along. Is
Yeah.
that part of the concept?
He has talked about his term would help with her helper beings that
Okay.
we had access to. He said, um, one of the things Daniel would talk about is that you're really the true guide that we need to tune into is our own soul, our own
Mhm.
highest self, that is our main guide, but that there can be helper beings that are available to us and support us. There are also beautiful teachers that are here as well to support us. But he said, your true teacher, the true guide, is your own soul and highest self. But to be discerning, and I think even Ram Dass said this, is just because a being doesn't have a body doesn't mean they're wise. And so to always use your own discernment when you're listening to information. And,
Mhm.
is this being here to really support me in my own growth and development? Then okay, then there's something here that I can listen to. But if not, if it's like, oh, trying to acquire, like a following, or I'm always right, or it takes away your own sovereignty, then that might not be someone that you want to pay attention to or put your energy toward.
Yeah, especially if you're leaning more towards ego
Hmm.
than spirit, because ego
Correct.
will throw a monkey wrench in everything every single
Oh
time.
yeah, it does. It does. So, yep. So we have to be really mindful because our lives are precious, our time is precious, and just akin to learn from with our own bodies, with our own mind and hearts, is this truly in alignment with me and why I'm here?
What about guardian angels? A lot of people believe in guardian angels. Is that like the same thing you're thinking of as spirit helpers, or is there a hierarchy that we deal with sometimes?
You know, um, Daniel would say again that the only real angel we need is our soul, our own highest self.
Okay.
But that there are beings who sometimes will appear at certain times, he said not necessarily having wings like they've been portrayed,
Nine.
but there are beings that sometimes will support and help us. So it's not to be denied again that there is assistance for us on many different levels. It's just he was always reminding us about don't give your sovereignty away, don't give your authority away, but to recognize, okay, I've got this incredible access to my own soul and highest self if I take it. And there are also other supporters and helpers out there. Um, so yeah, when he would talk about upper heaven, it wasn't like there was a hierarchy per se of angels,
Hmm.
but that every all the beings that stayed in upper heaven are doing whatever they can to support us, so that we can keep returning and remembering who we are.
I always like to say that if my guardian angel is probably in rehab after dealing with me. Well, here. You said something that I found very interesting is the fact of your own discernment. And I think too often people who start on a spiritual path give up their sovereignty
Mhm.
to gurus, teachers,
Yeah.
and no offense,
Hmm.
channelers,
Hmm.
people they 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 hang on every word, they follow it, and they're waiting for that next bit of
Right.
information
Hmm.
instead of doing the work themselves,
Right.
taking that information, incorporating it into their lives.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why Daniel's teachings have stayed with me for so long, is that not only would he provide the information, but it was like, I don't want to create a church. I don't want dogma. I'm just here to help you. He said, any true teacher is here to help you reconnect you with your soul and then wish you well along your way.
Hmm.
And so Daniel was always coming back to do your work. It's about an act of spirituality, about, and but this is how you do it. And that to me, when it was always that reminder to go inward, it's like he provided such a beautiful framework and cosmology for this understanding. But just having a mental understanding of concepts does not constitute spiritual work.
Hmm.
It's really a moment by moment basis about where's my heart, where's my presence, am I actually letting my soul come through me, and or am I closed off in fear, anxiety, and loneliness? And and again, not to say there's anything wrong, because a lot of times those are indicators of, oh, okay, maybe I've lost myself here, or maybe I've given my power away. But his message was always about go within. One of the teachings that he did is he did this Q&A,
Hmm.
um, all these questions from everything about um, stars and different beings on the earth. I mean, it was a fascinating teaching. But the thing that stood out for me at the most at the end was he said, I understand humans are curious, right? Because we want to know, we want that information.
Hmm.
But he said at the end of all of this, that just having that information does not change you, does not help you lessen your density, doesn't help you dismantle the social mind. And so keep doing your work. And there was always that reminder to go back within.
There, again, I've also heard, got a lot of these in my head. The fact that um, we're not meant to know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're only given enough to live the life,
Hmm.
and you'll learn some interesting things along the way. But there are forces out there that science is trying to prove, investigators and researchers are trying to prove,
Yeah.
and show what's happening. Uh, great example. There's a TV show that I'm like hooked on History Channel, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if you've ever
I
watched
haven't.
the show.
Yeah.
Um, the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah has been a hotbed of all of this incredible high strangeness activity for years.
Hmm.
And they they're doing a TV show for the last 7 years so far, where they have scientists on the ranch trying to measure this phenomena. There's UFOs, there are lights, that
Hmm.
things happening in the mesa, people hearing voices, energies, radiation coming out of nowhere, gamma radiations that people got radiation burns.
Oh, wow.
So much has happened, and they're using all this scientific instruments to try to measure things on this ranch.
Hmm.
And while it's interesting and they've come up with some answers, they I don't think they're ever going to figure it out,
Right.
because it's beyond our comprehension. And there's an intelligence on this ranch that actively foils them.
Hmm.
When they're using electronic equipment and it fails,
Yeah.
they try launching rockets up through this one area, and all of a sudden they're immediately deflected. It's everything.
Hmm.
Everything they do, they're foiled.
Yeah.
That's just one aspect of some of the strangeness we deal with.
Hmm.
Um, And plus the fact that we may know about reincarnation, we may know about past lives, but I think there's so much more to it that we're just never going to understand.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, Daniel does talk about um, that there have been, I mean, he talks about UFOs. He did a teaching on the benevolent beings that
Hmm.
have been here to support us, but also the malevolent
Hmm.
beings who have or who don't honor free will. Um, he talks about entities. So, there's this, so there is, like you're saying, there's still a lot that we don't understand. But at the end of the day, the intellectual understanding of something doesn't change anything. We can learn and acquire and get all this scientific data, but what am I doing in this moment? How am I interacting with myself? How am I interacting with the planet, with the people in my life? Those are the things that really matter. And again, it's yeah, we can have that's part of being human is I love our curiosity about things, but I don't want to get so lost in that curiosity that I forget that oh, I actually have a purpose here for this lifetime.
It's all about balance.
Yeah, yeah.
We are balancing so many things in our life. We're balancing
Hmm.
our energies between the masculine and feminine, physical and
Yeah.
spiritual. Um, knowing, focusing on those things that might interest us, but also
Hmm.
focusing on ourselves and our life path,
Yeah.
like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, they get so obsessed with some things. Uh, right now, all the disclosure people are just going nuts.
Hmm.
And I know that there's a lot of hinky stuff going on with that, but
Hmm.
that'll be for another show. The, uh, but yeah, it's just there's just so much. Now, speaking of so much, what are a couple of we'll limit it to a couple. What are some of the
Hmm.
things that you have learned from Daniel that you said really challenged your mind, challenged your belief system, and you said, oh, I never thought of that before, or whoa, it's made you change the way that you view certain aspects of your life?
um I think early on in his teachings, and it doesn't, like I think about it now and it's not an issue, but we would joke because he would talk about the Earth not being a planet like we think about it. And we were like, Earth isn't a planet, and it's like, no, Earth is actually the physical body of Gaia, your sister from upper heaven. That was huge for me to
Hmm.
really see the planet for what it is and the incredible sacrifice that she has made to provide this place for us to do our learning, to transform energies. And so that for me at that time was really big. Um, I think, and then on a simple note, um, when Daniel would talk about the social mind,
Hmm.
I basically, and he even describes it like being a squirrel's nest on 2 feet. It's this implant because when I was even when I was on this sort of spiritual path, it was like, what is, who am I? And Daniel would talk about the social mind as what we think of like me, like, oh, all these attributes that I've acquired, this education, these titles. And when he started saying that's actually not who you are, and it's like, well, then who am I? That was a big awakening for me too, because he started educating us that with this being an implant, it's basically, and it's no fault of our parents because it happened to them as well. But when we arrive in the planet in this pure awareness and this presence, I mean, we've just come from the in between, being held and nurtured and sung to love beyond what we can even imagine. Then we come in and then we start getting put in a box, so to speak. So to speak, it's like our parents tell us who we're supposed to be. The schools tell us who we're supposed to be. Society tells us who we're supposed to be. And we start forming these ideas and judgments and opinions about ourselves and others. And when I was able to start understanding that that is not who I am, I'm actually this soul, it was like, oh, that to me was a big awareness. That was a big part of that awakening. Where now, 30 years later, I'm like, that's a given. All of this is a given. But back then, that was so new to me. Like, oh, I am not that voice in my head. Those are just the thoughts from the other people around me that I've internalized. I am more than these attributes. I am more. Like, this is just, again, the lifetime is important because it has a purpose, but I am so much more than that. And to really recognize that, oh, get acquainted with those subtle energies that of who I truly am. So, um, there were other things that, again, that like I always, and who knows, maybe it's because of my last name. As a kid, I would be teased about flying saucerman. And so I was always had the sense that there was life beyond this solar system. But so it was always amazing to have that confirmed from Daniel too about, oh, there are other beings um, beyond our planet, which also makes sense when you look at the night sky. How could we not be part of something greater? But that was always fascinating as well.
When we're talking about coming in, being born into this existence, and then basically being conditioned early on, like you said, with societal norms, cultures,
Yeah.
ideas, what your parents
Hmm.
believe and bring onto you, both
Yeah.
all the good and the bad. That, this is why a lot of young children are more in tune to the
Hmm.
spiritual side, the
Yeah.
aspects. Some can remember their past lives, some
Hmm.
can see spirits or ghosts, and people always say, oh well, that's just their imaginary friend. And no, it's there's somebody standing right there.
Hmm.
um but then they have it programmed out of them,
Yeah.
and then later in life they follow along like the rest of us.
Hmm.
I mean, I've had things happen to me when I was younger, some interesting experiences. And if I mentioned anything around my mother, I would always get the same thing. That's just your imagination. So she didn't want to hear it,
Yeah.
and some people are so ingrained in those beliefs, they don't want to be open to
Yeah.
any new ideas. They think they've got all the answers already. A lot of organized religion is like this, that
Exactly.
they have all the answers, and
Yep.
anything you're saying that goes against or threatens their idea,
Yeah.
you're a heretic.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so sad because you can actually see children shutting down. And, because we need validation as children, like, oh,
Hmm.
yeah, I was talking to so and so, my imaginary friend, or they don't even use the word imaginary. To them, that's a real being.
Hmm.
Or kids tuning into nature and just being able to gaze and just be present when now it's about do
Hmm.
instead of. And so it is sad that we've lost that. And again, that's one of the things that Daniel goes into the book too, about how religion has played a big part of that. A lot of it, he says, a lot of the teachings of our greatest spiritual teachers have all been distorted. You think about the telephone game, it's like
Hmm.
say something and by the time it comes around, it's something completely different.
Or
But
it's
he
like,
said,
let's invent this concept to scare the hell out of everybody to make sure they follow us.
exactly. And that's what he was saying happened with organized religion.
Hmm.
Earth gods were created. Um, and you think about, and I mean, one of the books that we'll be publishing is called The Hidden Mysteries of the Bible and Christianity, because um, all these religions have people looking outside of themselves for salvation,
Hmm.
and they use fear and judgment and the threat of punishment as a way to control behavior. That is not spirit. That is not love.
No.
That is not who we are. And it also encourages a passive spirituality. Go to church once a week for an hour, you've done it. And instead, again, bringing it back to what Daniel, it's Like every moment is a choice. And I'm not talking about this being a hardship of work, 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 but it's about presence, about how I am in the world. But um, yeah, he said that Daniel said that Jesus came to teach us about density, about our soul, about us having this purpose. And instead, he ended up getting turned into a sacrificial savior. And that's not what the intention was for his lifetime. And Daniel even goes as far as explaining the resurrection was used as a marketing campaign created by those seeking power,
Hmm.
especially the early church hierarchy,
Rome,
doing that. Exactly.
Rome.
So,
Yep,
yeah, so
they took it over.
they did. And I think especially when I think about the fundamentalist type religions, if it's not of love, it is not of spirit.
Hmm.
Spirit does not condone violence at all. And so it's so sad to witness what's been done in the name of the church or what's been done in the name of Jesus when that was not the intention behind it at all.
Yet there are still kernels of truth in there. One of the
Yes.
most important, which goes right into everything we've been talking about
Mhm.
today, is Jesus. They have it written down, supposedly
Yeah.
said, the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
in you. It's already there. You
Right.
don't have to like, call Jesus your personal savior in order to
Right.
get into heaven because you've got heaven in you
Yes.
because you're from heaven.
Yep.
And it's the whole going within aspect
Hmm.
and tuning
Yep.
into yourself. So there are a lot of concepts that he did talk about that
Yeah.
people have glossed over or they just didn't get it, but
Right.
but is still truth.
Very much so. Yeah, Daniel, in the book, he's like, don't throw out the Bible entirely, because there are, like you said, these kernels of truth, but there also is so much distortion. But you think about like that has lasted for centuries, that
Mhm.
kingdom of God is within. And
Mhm.
right there, to me, is really what Daniel has been talking about. I mean, all the great spiritual teachers have been talking about. It's about going back within. So,
Another thing he said that stuck with me, I heard it again recently, is you will do these things that I do and even greater.
mhm.
So, that would be heresy to some Christians because, well,
Yeah.
nobody could be greater than Jesus and God, but you still, yes,
Yeah,
we all have that capability of
we do.
tuning into ourselves and becoming greater than who we are here on this earth.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I get the concepts right. um, so you've got 16 books ready to go out. That must be a lot of work ahead of you.
They're they are the editing has been completed and I have to get with my book designer. Right now, the books that we have out are Remember Who You Are, A Spiritual Adventure, and it's really to me the gateway book to
Hmm.
all of this teaching. When Karen wrote the book, she was basically in a trance state for hours,
Hmm.
going on these experiences with Daniel and writing about them. And when people read the book, um, it really is an interior, it's a journey that you go on yourself. It's like this almost, some people have said it's like a roller coaster, like they'll finish a chapter and go, there can't be more. And it's like, oh my God, there's more and there's more and there's more. So it was a beautiful way to introduce these teachings of Daniel. And then An Ancient Whisper is the second book in the series. And in that book, he goes, Karen and Daniel, he takes her on adventures to learn more about life and death and the in between, more about Jesus's teachings and so many other hidden gems in there as well. So those are the books that are out now. All the other books are in the design process so that
Hmm.
we can eventually get them out. But those are the two books that we would recommend people start with.
And of course, where can people find those books?
So they're anywhere books are sold, but people can also go to our website at Universoul, it's Soul, foundations.com. And in addition to that, we also have some free PDFs of Daniel's teachings. One is called Follow Your Own Soul, like what
Hmm.
we've been talking about today. Another one is Beloved, about the love of our soul. And then um, Karen and I did a couple on social mind and density, two of the key concepts that you read about in the books. And then there's also a teaching called The True Meaning of the Light, which is
Hmm.
really beautiful. And then we also have a weekly newsletter that people can sign up for that is just a dose of weekly inspiration based on something from Daniel.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you think that I know Karen stopped working with Daniel and you for family life and whatever? Does she think that she would ever try to pick that up again or work with him again? Or is that phase of her life over?
You know, I don't know. Because she's hinted to me of, you know, wanting to write another book, which would mean another adventures. Um, right now, we have so much information because that's one of the things is I have so much, I had hundreds of tapes to transcribe. We have so much information
Hmm.
and we want to get that out. And then
Sure.
who knows what might happen. But Daniel is like always present to her. I mean, I
Hmm.
know I have conversations in my mind with Daniel
Really?
as well about things, but yeah, I think
So he kind of comes to you too.
well, as far as I check in.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So, so yeah, I think, and Daniel's even mentioned that, you know, when we go off on our own spiritual travels, you know, if we wanted to say hi, we can say hi. So, but he only comes through Karen. So as far
Okay.
as the channeling, yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Andy, we're coming up on the end here. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for all this. I'm gonna have to get the book and read it, but this is something that's very much near and dear to me. So I'm excited to talk to you today and learn more about this.
Great. Thank you so much, Milyssa, for having me here today. It's been a lovely conversation.
Oh, thank you very much. So that was Andi Saucerman, who is the editor of Remember Who You Are, a Spiritual Adventure, written by Karen Alexander. And there were a lot of concepts we talked about today I was already familiar with. And there's just some new concepts there too. With all of this information, you listen to it, you absorb it, but she's absolutely right. You've got to go within, listen to your higher self. I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm going to be doing more in a series of different videos talking about this and learning about the true nature of ourselves, of reality. So until next time, thank you all very much for tuning in to another episode of Transdimensional Realities here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Until next time, we'll catch you then. Be good humans. Bye bye.